A homeless teen asks a stranger for shelter. What happens next will inspire you. The wind was. The wind was bitter, biting into skin and clawing at exposed faces. The city streets were bustling with the rush of everyday life. But for anyone who bothered to glance down the alleyway, they would see a different story. Amid the tall buildings and glowing lights, a figure sat huddled on the cold concrete, shivering under a threadbare blanket. A teen, barely 16, his face gaunt and eyes hollow from exhaustion. His name was Liam. The world passed him by, each person oblivious to the quiet despair written all over his face. His clothes were tattered, shoes too big, and the cardboard sign beside him read simply, "Need shelter, please help." Liam's life had become a cycle of survival, a struggle to find warmth, food, and some semblance of safety. He had no family, no friends, just the cold streets and the hope that someone might show him mercy. But tonight, as the evening shadows grew long, he made a decision. He stood up, walked toward the nearest building, and with a mixture of fear and determination, knocked on the door of a stranger's home. What happened next would change both their lives forever. Liam's life hadn't always been this way. He was born to a loving mother and father in a small town where everyone knew everyone. The kind of place where neighbors watched out for each other, and childhood was meant to be carefree. But for Liam, childhood had been filled with secrets, with whispers behind closed doors, and with growing tension at home. His parents were both high school teachers, well respected in the community, but their personal lives were crumbling behind the facade of normalcy. His father, once a loving man, had become an unpredictable force of anger and disappointment. There were days when Liam would retreat to his room, hiding under the covers, hoping the storm would pass, but it never did. The breaking point came when Liam was 13. His father had a violent outburst, shattering what little remained of their family. Liam's mother packed her bags and left that night, taking only the barest necessities. She promised she would be back for him, but she never came. Abandoned, Liam was left to fend for himself. His father's alcoholism worsened, and soon there was no longer a safe space to return to. Liam spent his early teenage years bouncing from foster homes to shelters, never staying in one place long enough to call it home. Each place felt temporary. Each person he met had their own issues, their own battles, and no one seemed to care about the scared, lost boy who just wanted to belong. Eventually, Liam ended up on the streets, the harsh realities of the world closing in around him. He learned to rely on his wits and resourcefulness, but there were nights when the loneliness gnawed at him and the hunger felt unbearable. He knew he had no choice but to survive, because survival was the only thing left to him. But despite everything, Liam still held on to something. Hope. Hope that somewhere, someone would offer him a chance. That somehow his circumstances would change. It was on a night like any other when Liam's situation reached a boiling point. The city was alive with the hum of distant chatter, the flicker of streetlights, and the incessant noise of traffic. But Liam, sitting on the edge of a dark alley, felt utterly alone. His stomach growled in protest. His coat offered little protection from the cold, and his thoughts were a jumbled mess of fear and exhaustion. He had been watching the warm glow from the nearby cafe for hours, his mind wandering back to simpler days. Days when he was just a boy, not a street urchin fighting for scraps. The lights inside seemed inviting, a haven from the brutal world outside. But it was a place for people with jobs, with homes, with lives to return to. Not someone like him. He could never walk inside. But the thought was there. Maybe, just maybe, there would be someone who would take pity on him. And then a flicker of movement caught his eye. A man, middle-aged, walking briskly toward him. Liam froze. He had seen men like this before, rushing home, unaware of the world around them. But as the man passed, something unexpected happened. He stopped, turned back. Liam's heart skipped a beat as the man approached him. "Are you okay, kid?" the stranger asked, his voice gruff but gentle. Liam had heard this question before, but it always felt like a formality, a polite gesture before people turned away. But this time, there was something different. Something in the stranger's eyes that made Liam hesitate. I need a place to stay, Liam whispered, his voice barely above a breath. Just for tonight, I don't have anywhere else to go. The man studied him for a moment. The hesitation was there. He could see the doubt, the concern. But then the stranger spoke again, words that would change the course of Liam's life forever. I'm not sure about this, but I can't leave you out here like this. Come on, let's get you inside. Liam followed the stranger in silence, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what was happening. He had lived his life on guard, never trusting anyone, always expecting the worst. And yet here he was, walking into a stranger's home. It felt unreal. The man, whose name was Jack, led Liam into his small but cozy apartment. The warmth of the inside enveloped him, and for the first time in what felt like years, Liam felt something he hadn't felt in so long. Safety. The door shut behind them, and Jack offered him a seat on the couch. You don't need to explain anything, Jack said, taking a seat across from him. I can tell you've had a rough time. No one should have to live like that. I'll make you something to eat and you can rest. Liam blinked in disbelief. He had expected a quick rejection, a turn away at the door, but Jack's kindness, his genuine concern, was like a beacon in the darkness. As Jack went to the kitchen, Liam sat there, still processing the whirlwind of events. He had always believed that kindness was a rare thing, something that only happened in fairy tales. But this was real. A deep part of him wanted to believe that this could be the beginning of something new. But he had learned the hard way that people didn't just offer help out of the goodness of their hearts. There had to be a catch. There had to be a reason. When Jack returned with a steaming plate of food, he sat down beside Liam and looked him in the eye. You know, Jack said quietly, I've been in your shoes. Liam's eyes widened. What do you mean? Jack paused, taking a deep breath. When I was your age, I didn't have a family either. I was on the streets just trying to survive. It wasn't easy. But I had a moment where someone helped me, someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's why I couldn't just walk away from you tonight. Liam's heart swelled with emotion. So you're saying, you know what it's like? Jack nodded, his voice soft but firm. I do. And that's why I'm not going to let you go. You have more in you than you realize, Liam. You don't have to be alone anymore. The words hit Liam like a wave, crashing through the walls he had spent years building around himself. Jack wasn't just offering him shelter. He was offering him something more: hope, belief, and a chance to rebuild. For the first time in a long time, Liam let himself feel something other than fear. The weight of the world seemed to lift, if only for a moment. Jack's kindness didn't stop that night. Over the next few weeks, he helped Liam find a job at a local diner, taught him how to manage money, and most importantly, treated him like a person again. Not as a burden, not as a charity case, but as someone who deserved dignity and respect. As Liam stood in front of the diner's small kitchen, apron on, he couldn't help but smile. He had a future now, a real future. Months passed, and Liam's life began to transform. He had a stable job, a place to live, and most importantly, someone who cared about him. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. Jack became more than just a benefactor. He became a mentor, a father figure, someone who had given him the second chance he had longed for. Liam found the courage to reconnect with his mother, who had been searching for him for years. Through Jack's encouragement, he was able to forgive her for the past, and they began to rebuild their relationship. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for Liam, that was enough. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share this powerful message with someone who might need a reminder of the power of kindness. Sometimes all it takes is one person to believe in you to change the course of your life. If you've ever felt alone, remember that hope is never too far away. Join us for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the good in humanity and the strength of second chances.